Emergency services across Queensland are quietly preparing for what could be the most dangerous weather event this summer. Multiple life-threatening weather systems are converging on eastern Australia, and most people have no idea what's coming. And what I'm seeing in the forecast models has emergency managers genuinely worried. If you live between the Gold Coast and Newcastle, the next 48 to 72 hours could determine whether you're prepared or caught off guard. Hit that like button immediately because this forecast could protect your family and property from serious harm. We're tracking severe thunderstorms with damaging wind potential, life-threatening flash flooding, and isolated tornado risk. Before I break down these critical safety information, if you're new here, subscribe now for emergency weather updates. Quick acknowledgement to our community: 0 dislikes across recent videos shows you trust this analysis for your safety planning. That trust matters enormously when we're dealing with weather patterns that could impact millions of Australians. Right, let's get into the critical safety information you need to protect yourself and loved ones. Severe thunderstorms are developing across Queensland with potential for catastrophic straight-line wind damage. Plus, there's a tropical system in the Coral Sea that could bring flooding rains to already vulnerable communities. The third threat is an offshore system near southeast Queensland that emergency services are monitoring closely. Brisbane, Gold Coast and northern New South Wales residents need to take immediate precautions this weekend. Currently, dangerous thunderstorms are already developing across central New South Wales as atmospheric conditions deteriorate. These storms are moving northeast today, with the Hunter region already experiencing hazardous conditions. Orange, Dubbo and Parkes residents should shelter indoors as dangerous lightning and wind gusts threaten safety. Emergency management agencies are positioning resources based on radar signatures showing rapid storm intensification. Tomorrow brings extreme danger to Western Queensland with potentially catastrophic weather impacts. Cunnamulla and Charleville face life-threatening straight-line winds that could exceed 120 km per hour with little warning. These wind speeds can demolish poorly constructed buildings, uproot large trees, and turn debris into projectiles. Rural communities should secure livestock, move vehicles under cover, and ensure emergency communication plans are active. Storm spotters and emergency personnel are positioning for what could become a significant disaster response operation. Friday escalates the threat with severe weather targeting densely populated areas of the Scenic Rim and Darling Downs. Warwick area families should prepare for destructive hail, potentially larger than golf balls, that can injure people outdoors. The Granite Belt could experience flash flooding as intense rainfall overwhelms drainage systems and creek crossings. Emergency services are most concerned about the atmospheric energy building to dangerous levels. Convective available potential energy is reaching 2,500 joules per kilogram, levels that historically produce violent storms. Wind shear patterns are aligning perfectly for supercell formation with rotation that can spawn tornadoes. The combination of factors creates conditions where multiple severe weather hazards can develop simultaneously. Brisbane residents may experience dangerous conditions, though the greatest threat remains focused inland. Coastal communities should monitor conditions closely, as any shift could bring severe weather to populated areas. But here's what has emergency planners most alarmed. The tropical situation could trigger widespread evacuations. Ex-tropical cyclone Koji's remnants are reorganizing in ways that threaten both coastlines simultaneously. Emergency managers are studying satellite imagery that reveals patterns historically associated with major disasters. Both international forecast models now agree on tropical redevelopment that could impact millions of Australians. The sea surface temperatures provide unlimited energy for rapid storm intensification near populated coastal areas. Far North Queensland communities must begin evacuation planning immediately based on these forecast developments. The dual system scenario shows one threat tracking toward Western Australia, while another targets Queensland. Cairns, Townsville and coastal communities face potentially catastrophic flooding during the January 20th to 25th period. Rainfall projections of 200 to 400 millimetres in 48 hours would overwhelm flood defences and emergency response capabilities. Many areas remain saturated from previous flooding, meaning any additional rainfall creates immediate life-threatening conditions. Here's critical safety information for your specific location to help protect your family. Sydney residents face immediate thunderstorm danger today, with the greatest risk northwest through Hunter regions. The Blue Mountains could experience dangerous lightning strikes and flash flooding in steep terrain and creek systems. Melbourne enjoys relative safety this weekend, but residents should monitor rapidly changing weather conditions. Emergency services recommend using this stable period to review family emergency plans and supply kits. Brisbane faces increasing atmospheric instability, with dangerous storm potential escalating through the weekend. Humidity levels will create oppressive conditions that can trigger heat-related health emergencies during power outages. Perth remains stable short-term, but faces potential tropical cyclone evacuation requirements around January 20th. Western Australia's emergency services are quietly positioning resources for potential major disaster response. Adelaide provides a safety refuge from surrounding chaos, but residents should prepare to assist family elsewhere. Darwin and Northern Territories are experiencing early stages of dangerous monsoon intensification. Emergency coordinators are most concerned about the speed of atmospheric deterioration across multiple regions. Overnight weather data reveals conditions changing faster than communities can implement protective measures. The moisture transport creating massive temperature contrasts that fuel explosive and unpredictable storm development. When these air masses collide next week, emergency services expect rapid onset severe weather with minimal warning. Temperature differences of 40 to 50 degrees create atmospheric instability that can trigger sudden, life-threatening conditions. Agricultural communities face crop destruction and livestock losses that could impact food security and rural economies. Tourism operators must implement guest evacuation procedures, as transport links could close with little notice. Marine rescue services are preparing for increased emergency calls as conditions become too dangerous for vessels. Your immediate action could save lives. Comment your location, and I'll provide specific emergency guidance. Are you in high-risk areas? Share current conditions so emergency services can monitor threat development. Northern Queensland residents must report unusual weather changes immediately for community safety coordination. Regional emergency coordinators are using citizen reports to verify forecast models and position resources effectively. Follow emergency weather updates as life-threatening conditions develop across multiple states. The overnight forecast changes reveal threat levels that significantly exceed initial emergency planning assumptions. That tropical system has shifted tracks in ways that bring dangerous weather closer to major population centres. Emergency management agencies are activating additional resources based on these concerning developments. Current trajectory analysis indicates potential impacts affecting millions of Australians across multiple states. State emergency services are coordinating response capabilities for what could become Australia's largest weather emergency this year. The rainfall totals being forecast would trigger major flooding that overwhelms current emergency response capabilities. Some communities could receive 300 to 400 millimetres in 48 hours, creating life-threatening flash flooding with minimal escape time. Critical infrastructure, including hospitals, schools, and emergency services, could lose power and communication capability. Transport networks face complete shutdown scenarios that could isolate communities for extended periods. Aviation emergency protocols are being activated as airports prepare for potential closure during peak weather. The critical question isn't whether dangerous weather will develop, but whether communities are prepared for the impacts. Ocean temperatures create perfect conditions for tropical systems that could exceed emergency management planning assumptions. Atmospheric conditions are becoming ideal for weather that forces mass evacuations and long-term power outages. Wind patterns are organising to create situations where emergency shelters could be overwhelmed by displaced residents. Emergency management officials must monitor high-pressure system positioning that determines storm track and intensity. If atmospheric patterns weaken, communities gain valuable time for final emergency preparations and resource positioning. The next 24 to 48 hours will determine whether Australia faces isolated severe weather or widespread natural disaster. Tomorrow's emergency briefings will guide final decisions about evacuation timing and resource deployment. Friday's weather analysis will determine whether emergency services activate full disaster response protocols. For immediate family safety, here's what emergency services recommend every Australian household do right now. Severe weather preparation must begin immediately, before conditions deteriorate and emergency services become overwhelmed. Far North Queensland families should have evacuation plans finalised and emergency supplies ready for immediate deployment. This represents life-saving emergency preparation based on scientific analysis, not fear-mongering or sensationalism. Official emergency warnings will be issued through Bureau of Meteorology and state emergency services when threats become imminent. Personal emergency preparedness provides the first line of defence when weather overwhelms community response capabilities. Here's your critical emergency timeline for protecting your family during Australia's most dangerous weather period in months. This weekend, life-threatening severe weather across southeast Queensland and northeast New South Wales. January 20th to 25th. Potential mass evacuation requirements as tropical threats peak across northern Australia. The emphasis is emergency preparedness and family safety, not panic, but delayed action could prove catastrophic. Share this critical emergency information with everyone you care about. Preparation saves lives during natural disasters. Your engagement ensures emergency weather information reaches the maximum number of people who need life-saving guidance. Comments and shares help emergency information reach communities most at risk from these developing weather threats. For those new to emergency weather information, you're learning during Australia's most dangerous weather period this year. Tomorrow's emergency update will focus on immediate safety decisions and protective action recommendations. Friday's critical analysis will address evacuation timing and emergency shelter requirements as tropical threats approach. Emergency forecast confidence improves dramatically once initial weather systems reveal their true destructive potential. Historical emergency response to similar patterns guides current preparation recommendations and resource positioning. Modern emergency management capabilities provide unprecedented protection, but community preparation remains essential. Emergency communication systems and community warning networks create multiple layers of life-saving protection. Your emergency preparation today determines your family's survival during the dangerous weather ahead. Emergency weather forecasting exists to prevent tragedy through early warning and community preparation. The detailed emergency analysis I've provided represents hours of study to ensure maximum community safety. Community support makes life-saving emergency weather analysis possible for vulnerable populations. Thank you for trusting this channel with emergency weather information during Australia's most dangerous period. Emergency updates will continue as life-threatening weather conditions develop across multiple regions. Stay safe, stay prepared, and ensure your loved ones know about these approaching emergency conditions. Until tomorrow's emergency update, remember that immediate preparation saves lives when weather becomes life-threatening.